Imagine waking up one day to find your personal data stolen, not from your computer, but from the government's database. This is not a sci-fi plot, but a reality that occurred in 2015. Welcome to the story of the Office of Personnel Management OPM Data Breach. In the digital age, data is the new gold, a treasure trove of information coveted by many. But what happens when the guardians of this treasure, the government itself, falls victim to a cyber attack? In 2015, this hypothetical scenario turned into a chilling reality. The Office of Personnel Management, entrusted with the sensitive data of millions, fell prey to one of the most significant data breaches in history. This breach was not just an ordinary cyber attack. It was a stark reminder of our vulnerabilities in this interconnected world. It highlighted the significance of robust cybersecurity measures and the potential implications of their absence. A breach at such a level poses a question that sends shivers down our spine. What happens when the government's data gets hacked? The answer to this question is a tale of intrigue, suspense, and lessons to be learned. A tale that we will unravel as we delve deeper into the chilling story of the OPM Data Breach. Intrigued? Let's dive into the story of the OPM Data Breach. The year is 2015. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management, OPM, the Human Resources Department for the federal government, becomes the victim of a massive cyber attack. Imagine the shockwaves that rippled through the corridors of power when the breach was discovered. It was an average workday when the alarm bells started ringing. The digital security company Cyfire had unearthed something unsettling, a cyber attack on the U.S. government. The magnitude of the breach was far beyond what anyone could have anticipated. Initial responses were a flurry of activity. Meetings were hastily arranged, security protocols were doubled down on, and experts were brought in to assess the damage. The scale of the breach was so vast the shock was palpable. This wasn't some minor infraction, it was a full-blown assault on the nerve center of the U.S. government. As the experts delved deeper, the extent of the data stolen began to come into focus. The breach was not just a random act of cyber vandalism, it was a calculated, meticulous extraction of sensitive data. The stolen information was not just names and email addresses, it was social security numbers, health records, and even fingerprint data. The realization dawned that this was not just an attack on the government, but on the very fabric of the nation. Each data point represented a person, a life, a story. The lives of millions of ordinary Americans had been exposed, their personal information now in the hands of unknown entities. In the aftermath of the discovery, the question on everyone's lips was, how could this happen? It was a sobering reminder of the vulnerability of even the most secure systems. The shock that followed was not just about the breach itself, but the realization of the fragility of our digital lives. The OPM data breach was not just a simple hack, it was a cyber assault on the U.S. government. In the aftermath of the breach, the U.S. government scrambled to understand the extent of the damage. The Office of Personnel Management was at the center of a storm, a chilling realization of the vulnerabilities in the nation's cyber defenses. A flurry of activity ensued as investigators descended upon the scene. They were faced with a jigsaw puzzle of epic proportions, piecing together the scattered fragments of a complex cyber attack. The shockwaves of the breach rippled out, touching every corner of the government. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching, a stark reminder of the very real dangers of the digital age. The government was forced to confront the reality of its own vulnerability. The breach had laid bare the fragility of the nation's cyber defenses, a wake-up call that could not be ignored. In the corridors of power, discussions were held, strategies were revised, and plans were put into action. But for those whose data had been stolen, the nightmare was just beginning. The long-term implications of the breach were profound. For the individuals affected, their personal information was now in the hands of unknown entities. The fear of identity theft, of their lives being upended, hung over them like a dark cloud. The trust between the government and its employees had been shattered, a wound that would take time to heal. On a broader scale, the breach highlighted the urgent need for stronger cybersecurity measures. It served as a stark reminder of the importance of data protection in an increasingly interconnected world. It emphasized the need for robust security protocols, for rigorous safeguards, and for a culture of cyber vigilance. The fallout from the breach was a bitter pill to swallow. It was a wake-up call that highlighted the dire consequences of complacency in the face of cyber threats. The government, and indeed the nation, had learned a hard lesson, one that would shape its approach to cybersecurity in the years to come. It was clear that the OPM data breach had far-reaching consequences, both for the government and for the millions of individuals whose data was stolen. The OPM data breach was a wake-up call for the US government and for governments around the world. It was a stark illustration of the reality we live in, a world where not even the most secure government databases are safe from the prying eyes of hackers. The lessons learned from this breach were numerous and far-reaching. One of the most crucial lessons was the absolute necessity of robust cybersecurity measures. In a world where data is the new oil, it is paramount that we invest in systems and measures that protect this valuable resource. The OPM data breach highlighted the need for governments, corporations, and individuals to prioritize cybersecurity, not as an afterthought, but as a fundamental aspect of their operations. Another critical lesson was the importance of a swift and comprehensive response in the face of a data breach. When a breach occurs, every second counts. The faster the response, the less damage is done. In the wake of the OPM breach, the US government took steps to improve its incident response capabilities, focusing on rapid identification and containment of breaches as well as swift notification of affected individuals. The OPM data breach also underscored the ongoing and ever-evolving threat of cyber attacks. The hackers who breached the OPM database did not use some futuristic, unheard-of method. They used techniques that are well known in the cybersecurity world. This breach served as a reminder that we must always be vigilant, always be learning, and always be adapting to the changing landscape of cyber threats. In the aftermath, the US government, along with governments around the world, took steps to bolster their cybersecurity defenses and improve their incident response capabilities. New policies were implemented, new technologies were adopted, and new strategies were developed, all with the aim of preventing a repeat of the OPM data breach. So what does this all mean for us? It means that we must be vigilant. We must understand that in this digital age, our data is vulnerable. But it also means that we have the power to protect ourselves. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can build a more secure future. The OPM data breach was a stark reminder of the vulnerability of our digital world. But it was also a clarion call, a call to action, a call to prioritize cybersecurity and protect our data, our identities, and our future. The OPM data breach is a story of a cyber attack, its victims, and the lessons learned. But it's also a story about the need for vigilance in our digital world. In this era of interconnectedness, it is no longer a question of if, but when a cyber attack will occur. Cybersecurity is not just the responsibility of governments or big corporations, it is a collective responsibility. Each one of us has a role to play in safeguarding our digital universe. We must be vigilant and proactive in protecting our data. But how do we stay vigilant? By staying informed, by understanding the threats that lurk in the digital shadows and knowing how to counter them, by learning from the mistakes of the past and using them to fortify our future. This is where we come in. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you the most engaging and informative content on cybersecurity. We delve into the stories, the breaches, the victories, and the lessons learned. We bring you insights from experts and survivors, and we arm you with the knowledge you need to stay one step ahead of the cybercriminals. So, if you want to be part of this journey towards a more secure digital world, subscribe to our channel. Together, we can turn the tide against cybercrime. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, your personal data is only as secure as the weakest link in the chain. Subscribe to our channel for more stories and insights on cybersecurity.